You know, every time we sit down together on this channel, I'm reminded how many incredible people are out there listening to these stories. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe. We share memories that deserve to be heard. And right now, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Please write it in the comments below. It always warms my heart to see how far these stories travel. But today's story, it is not easy to tell. Imagine standing in a crowded airport, clutching your small handbag, only to realize that your own family, the people you trusted most, have disappeared. No money, no ticket, no explanation. Just the echo of your son's voice fading into the crowd. That moment shattered me, and even now, years later, it's hard to speak of it without trembling. Please, stay with me until the end, because what happened changed me forever. My name doesn't matter as much as the years I carry on my shoulders. I am a widow, long past the age when people notice you in a crowd. My husband and I built our life from nothing. We lived modestly, but we lived with love. When he passed away, the silence of my house was unbearable. Every clock tick echoed louder. Every empty chair reminded me of what I had lost. For the first time in decades, I was truly alone. I thought, at least, that I still had my son. He had married a few years earlier. His wife, well, she was polite in the beginning, but always distant, like I was an unwelcome shadow at the edge of their bright new life. Still, he was my only child. After the funeral, they invited me to come live with them. My heart softened. Maybe I wouldn't be alone after all. I moved into their home with a single suitcase, folded clothes still smelling faintly of my husband's cologne, and a photo frame I refused to pack away. At first, it was comforting. My son greeted me with a hug, and I convinced myself that his wife's tight smile meant acceptance. I tried to stay out of their way. I kept my corner tidy, cooked small meals, and offered to help with chores. But slowly, the cracks began to show. I overheard whispers, her complaining that I was always around, him sighing that he didn't know what else to do with me. At the dinner table, my stories went unheard. They scrolled on their phones, eyes flicking past me as though I were furniture. Once, she laughed at my old shoes, saying maybe we should start a donation drive for me. He chuckled, not cruelly, but not defending me either. Do you know the feeling of being in a room full of people, yet invisible? That was my daily existence. Still, I clung to hope. I told myself, they're just busy, they'll see my worth in time. Then one evening, my son announced something that lit a spark in me. We're taking a trip, he said. All of us. You need a change of scenery. His wife nodded, her smile unusually wide. I couldn't believe it. For weeks, I packed and repacked my small bag, folding each blouse carefully, almost childlike with excitement. I imagined us laughing together, maybe finally healing the distance between us. I didn't notice then how little they involved me in the planning. They spoke in hushed tones, looked at each other when I asked questions, but I brushed it aside. Hope can blind you more than any darkness. And so, the morning came. The drive to the airport was quiet, too quiet. I sat in the back seat, watching the world blur past, my heart beating fast with both nerves and anticipation. I told myself this was the beginning of something better. But as we stepped into that vast, echoing airport, I felt a chill. Not from the air conditioning, but from the way they walked slightly ahead of me, their heads bent together, voices low. And that was the beginning of the moment that would break me. Living under their roof was not what I imagined. At first, I tried to convince myself it was just the adjustment period, that blending two generations under one roof takes time. I told myself not to be sensitive, not to take things too personally. But as weeks turned into months, the truth became harder and harder to ignore. I would wake early, long before they stirred, and make coffee just to feel useful. Sometimes I baked bread, the way my husband used to love, hoping the smell would bring warmth to the kitchen. My son would come down, pour himself a cup without a word, and rush out the door. His wife often skipped breakfast altogether. If she did pause, it was only to wrinkle her nose and say, "You really shouldn't eat so much bread at your age. It's not healthy." I laughed politely, though inside the words stung. I had lived a lifetime, raised a child, survived grief, and yet here I was, being scolded like a child myself. The house itself never felt like mine. I had a small room at the end of the hallway. I decorated it with framed photographs, a quilt I had sewn years ago, and the rosary beads that had carried me through so many sleepless nights. It was my sanctuary, though sometimes I felt like I was expected to stay there, out of sight. Once, I overheard my daughter-in-law on the phone. She was in the living room, her voice sharp, carrying through the walls. "She's always here. I feel like I can't breathe in my own house. It's like having a stranger lurking around." Her words sliced through me. A stranger. That's what I had become. I sat silently in my room, holding the photo of my husband, whispering to him as though he could still hear. Did we raise him wrong? Did we love him too much? Even my small gestures were twisted into burdens. I folded their laundry, and she told me I had stretched her sweaters. I cooked dinner, and she criticized the seasoning, pushing the plate away. My son said little, but silence is its own betrayal. He didn't defend me, he didn't reassure me, he simply let the distance grow. One afternoon, I decided to clean the kitchen thoroughly, scrubbing the counters until they shone. When she returned home, instead of gratitude, she frowned. "You used the wrong cloth. Now I'll have to redo it." I murmured an apology, though my chest ached. It wasn't all harsh words. There were moments when my son softened, a quick smile, a question about my health. But those moments were fleeting, quickly drowned by his wife's disapproval. I learned to cling to scraps of kindness the way a drowning person clings to driftwood. Still, despite everything, I tried to remain hopeful. I believed that deep down he loved me. I believed that if I endured the small humiliations, there would come a time when they would see my worth again. And then one evening, everything shifted. We were sitting at the table when my son spoke, almost casually, as if announcing the weather. "We've been thinking, maybe we should take a trip, all of us. It might be good for you, Mom. You've been cooped up for too long." My heart leapt. A trip together. Perhaps this was the moment I had been waiting for, a chance to reconnect, to be a family again. I smiled, perhaps too eagerly. His wife's lips curved into something resembling agreement, though her eyes stayed cold. For days, I busied myself preparing. I folded each dress carefully, polished my shoes, and even bought a small bottle of perfume, telling myself I should look presentable. I asked about the details, but they spoke vaguely. "Don't worry, Mum, we'll handle everything." And I believed them, because when you love someone, you want to believe. You want to trust that no matter how many small wounds they inflict, they would never truly break you. I didn't see the signs. I didn't notice how they whispered together more than usual, how she smirked when I asked questions. I was too blinded by hope. The morning of the trip arrived. I dressed in my neatest clothes, clutching my bag with trembling hands. As we drove to the airport, I sat in the back seat, the hum of the engine mixing with the pounding of my heart. I gazed at the horizon, convincing myself this was the beginning of something better. I didn't know that it was, in fact, the beginning of the cruelest chapter of my life. The car ride to the airport was strangely silent. My son kept his eyes fixed on the road, his hands gripping the wheel a little tighter than usual. Beside him, his wife tapped on her phone, her nails clicking against the glass screen in a rhythm that seemed louder than the hum of the engine. I sat in the back seat, clutching my small handbag, trying to steady my nerves. I wanted to speak, to break the silence with some light-hearted comment, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I looked out the window, watching the familiar streets fade into highways, and highways give way to the sprawling outskirts of the city. I told myself this was a fresh start. I even smiled quietly, imagining how it would feel to laugh with them again, to sit in some sunny place, sipping tea together like a family. The thought alone kept my heart beating quickly with anticipation. But deep down, something was unsettled. The air in the car felt heavy, as if a conversation was happening without me. My son's wife whispered something to him, too low for me to hear. He gave a short nod, his eyes never leaving the road. I tried to ignore it, forcing myself to believe they were just discussing the flight. When we pulled into the airport parking lot, I adjusted my scarf and smoothed the wrinkles from my skirt. My husband used to say I always fussed over my appearance when I was nervous. Maybe he was right, but I wanted to look presentable, to show them I was ready to be part of whatever awaited us. Inside the airport, the noise and bustle swallowed me whole. Announcements crackled overhead, suitcases rolled across the floor, and families hurried past with excited chatter. My son walked ahead with his wife, their steps brisk and synchronized. I struggled to keep up, weaving through the crowd, my small legs aching. I thought maybe they would slow down, notice me falling behind, but they didn't. I hurried, breathless, my heart thumping with both exertion and unease. At the check-in area, I expected us to queue together, but instead, they moved to the side, whispering again. I stood a few feet away, awkwardly clutching my bag, unsure whether to approach. When I asked which counter we needed, his wife only said, "Just wait, we'll handle it." Her tone was sharp, dismissive, but I swallowed my pride, telling myself they were just stressed with travel details. I sat down on a nearby bench, watching as they busied themselves at the counter. The minutes stretched unbearably long. A thought crept into my mind, unwanted but persistent. Why didn't they show me a ticket? Why didn't they ask me to check my luggage? I shook my head, scolding myself. Of course they had it all planned. They were younger, more organized. I was just being old and suspicious. When they returned, my son's smile was thin, almost forced. "Mum, just stay here for a bit. We'll be right back. Don't move, okay?" I nodded, though confusion pricked at me. They walked away again, their figures blending into the crowd. I sat there, my handbag on my lap, my eyes searching for them every second. 10 minutes passed, then 20. My heart began to race. I stood up, craning my neck, scanning every face, every silhouette. The announcement boards blurred as panic clouded my vision. I told myself they would come back any moment, that they had gone to sort something out. But deep down, that quiet voice inside me whispered the unthinkable. And for the first time that day, I let myself wonder, had they brought me here for reasons I could not bear to believe? I sat there on that cold metal bench, my handbag pressed tightly against me, staring at the spot where they had disappeared. People hurried past with boarding passes in hand, children tugged on their parents' arms, lovers embraced before parting gates. Life moving forward, while mine had come to a standstill. 5 minutes turned into 10, then 20. My throat felt dry, and my palms were damp. I rose to my feet, scanning every direction, my eyes darting from one face to another. Where were they? Why weren't they coming back? I told myself it had to be a mistake. Maybe they had gone to buy snacks. Maybe they were picking up something from the information desk. Any second now, I would see them wave, calling me over. Any second. But that second never came. I walked toward the counters, my legs shaky, my chest tightening with every step. "Excuse me," I asked a staff member nervously. "Have you seen my son and his wife? They were just here." The young woman gave me a polite but puzzled look and shook her head. She didn't know who I meant. The realization began to sink in like ice spreading through my veins. I checked the clock. Nearly an hour had passed. No phone call, no sign of them, no note. I clutched my phone and dialed my son. My fingers trembled so badly I nearly dropped it. 1 ring, 2, 3. Voicemail. I tried again, straight to voicemail. My knees weakened, and I gripped the counter to steady myself. I dialed again and again, whispering under my breath, "Please, please answer me." Each unanswered call was another crack in my heart. I tried his wife's number too, only to hear the same silence. My chest burned with shame. I looked around, afraid people were watching me, judging me. Did they see an old woman abandoned? Did they see someone who no longer mattered? I pulled my scarf tighter, trying to disappear into myself. I sat back down, unable to breathe properly, my eyes fixed on the sliding doors, as if somehow, miraculously, they would return through them. Memories flooded my mind. The day my son was born, his tiny hand gripping my finger, his first steps across our old living room floor. I had devoted my life to him, and now I was nothing more than a burden cast aside in the middle of an airport. Time blurred. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen. The world moved around me, indifferent. My stomach growled, but I had no appetite. My wallet was nearly empty. A few coins, not enough for a proper meal, certainly not for a ticket anywhere. The fear became overwhelming. My body trembled, not from the chill of the air conditioning, but from the crushing weight of abandonment. My husband's voice echoed in my memory. "I'll always protect you." But he was gone, and the only one left to protect me had just walked away. Tears threatened to fall, but I bit them back. I didn't want strangers to see me cry. I didn't want to give the world more reason to overlook me. So I sat upright, gripping the bench, my heart pounding against my ribs. And then it hit me fully. The truth I had been fighting since the moment they vanished. They weren't coming back. They had left me there on purpose. The ground seemed to tilt beneath me, the noise of the airport swelling into a deafening roar. My breath came in shallow gasps as the reality consumed me. And in that endless crowd, surrounded by thousands of strangers, I realized the cruelest truth of all. I was utterly, devastatingly alone.